It's a great question. What's next? But just in case you were busy and otherwise occupied last night, we'll tell you what's happened over an extremely busy weekend for your Texas Rangers. Hi there. Welcome into the DLLS Rangers podcast. John Radigan here. We got Jeff Wilson there, and it is Black Friday week. And before we get to the Rangers, we give you the opportunity to save up to 90% on our Black Friday sale for now, from now until Wednesday. It's early access for our diehards only, diehard exclusive access between now and Wednesday. And so that may be motivation enough for you to pull the trigger on your diehard subscription right now. But either way, these deals will be available to everybody on Black Friday. We've just got a little special deal going for our diehards today. So that's where we begin. And the news is huge, Jeff. And it's a record. We had 2 emergency podcasts in one weekend, right? I mean, we've never had that. We had the big news of the non-tenders of Adolis Garcia and Jonah Heim and Josh Boers and Jacob Webb on Friday. And then yesterday, it truly was what has always been called, Jeff, a blockbuster trade.
Yeah, and it was basically just 1 for 1. The Mets threw in $5 million to help kind of balance out the money because, Nimmo's under contract till 2030, which is 2 years beyond Semien. So, but anyway, it is kind of a jarring thing, I guess, if you were still, clinging to 2023 and the feel good and the hope of what that lineup did, and if it could come around again and give it one more shot. Well, the Rangers did that last year, and I think the moves from the weekend indicate that the pieces that were in place and weren't working.
Right.
And again, those 3, Heim, Garcia, Semien, not the only ones, but I think within Nimmo, the Rangers have gotten a player who gets on base, puts the ball in play, has some pop, and is handy defensively too. So it's going to be the first of several lineup moves. This is just a wave. The Rangers have a lot of work to do. So so this morning we talked to Chris Young and Ross Fencermaker, and then we talked to Brandon Nimmo. We'll talk more about that in the second segment. But first up, they were asked, the semantics.
Yeah.
When did the deal go down? When did it start? Chris expressed his understanding to some potentially upset fans, to see some fan favorites get going. But he said at the end of the day, it's our job to win baseball games, and what we've done the last 2 years wasn't working. And he's right.
Yep.
So that's his job, is to win baseball games. And I think maybe even last year, in hindsight, he wishes he could have made some of these moves, because the whole offseason it was, well, we're just counting on internal improvements. They never came along, and you can't take that chance again. So Nimmo's going to be just the first shoe to drop. As of right now, it looks like second base. That's what they said is they're going to fill it internally. I don't know if that was just posturing or what, but I suspect that they will be in reach and in touch with free agents. We're all kind of a little giddy about the idea of Luis Arraez coming.
Sure.
Just because of his bat to ball skills.
Yep.
He seems like a good fit, because again, when you listen to these guys talk about Brandon Nimmo, it was on base, a lot of contact. He's going to fit the profile that Skip Schumacher wants, that the Rangers feel like they need, the offensive makeover. So we got to wait and see. And Chris Young was asked, well, what are your priorities now? He's like, well, we're gonna, I guess this last week has been all this trade.
Yeah.
So they're gonna, they're meeting right now to get their minds back together and figure out where to go next. And I think infield will be the next target. I hope that includes the catching position
Right.
because they certainly need a catcher. But the bullpen needs to be rebuilt, and then they do need. Chris Young still wants to get a starting pitcher, so a lot left to do for the Rangers this offseason. And it still is November, so there's a long
Sure.
way to go.
And it's cool because we'll have a lot more opportunity for emergency podcasts, which are always fun, especially when you've just landed in Detroit and you have to go find the nearest Starbucks. So, but it was great. I was so glad. I really was so glad to do it. I didn't even see it till I got out of the rental car place, and I'm like, whoa, we got to talk. So, anyway. That was cool. We were really glad to be on the spot. We know many of you were by the channel. We're so glad you were. And look, here's the thing. We're the only ones talking about this in DFW today. Like everybody, even all the radio stations which have sports all day, the only thing they're talking about, and granted, it was a good Cowboys win, but if you get one segment on any of the shows today on the Rangers, you'll be happy. We got an hour right now to talk about it. We love that you're here talking about it with us too, because this is huge news. It's a big, big day for the Rangers, and it is very significant in the remake, if you will, not rebuild, the remake of this roster. And when I think about the money, Jeff, right now, Nimmo is owed, 105 million ish, 101 million ish, about 20.5 per year AAV. So, and yes, as you mentioned, it's 2 years longer than Marcus's contract would have been. But Brandon Nimmo is 3 years younger than Marcus Semien, right? So those things kind of even out, if you will, financially. I do wonder if the guys talk, CY and Ross had what kind of reaction or feedback did they get from Marcus, who you talked to on Friday, and as of Friday was obviously still fully intending to be here.
Honestly, that wasn't asked, and we had him for 30 minutes, and it didn't come up from any of the people who asked. There was some pensive moments apparently as they awaited Nimmo waiving his no
Sure,
trade clause,
sure.
and he said he was first approached about it on Thursday, and Friday was their daughter's first birthday,
Wow.
so they were a little busy, and but I think that's where the any nerve-wracking moments were there, and also the fact that you're trading a guy who has been the finished third in the AL MVP vote 3 times. You He was signed to be the guy who helped the Rangers win the World Series,
Yeah.
and he did it in his second year.
Yep.
And he was third in the AL MVP vote that year. He was um, an all-star. He won the Gold Glove this year, and did look like, and the numbers bear it out, that he was better after the first 2 months. I mean, the first two
Sure.
months were absolutely dreadful, um, but I think what they're getting in Nimmo that they're losing in Simeon is an everyday player.
Yeah.
Nimmo hits right-handers and left-handers. He's a left-handed hitter. So he played 155 games last year. So he posts, all right. Brandon Nimmo plays. So you take care of that. It's going to add some, lineup continuity, I think. I think they have a spot in mind for him where he's going to fit, and he's just going to sit there the whole season.
Is
I
that
don't know that they
leadoff?
knew. I don't know. That's still up in the air, but
Okay.
I,
Yeah.
I don't know that Marcus was going to be in the top half of the lineup.
Oh no. No.
Um,
Yeah.
Nor do I know that he was going to be happy about that. The only thing that that was clarified by Young about Marcus was that the end of the year comment where he said, "I want to play with guys who want to win," which was taken the wrong way, I guess, by a lot of his teammates. Um, CY said that they had gotten clarification on that from Marcus at the end of the year, and it was absolutely was not a factor in anything that went down here in the last few days.
Yeah. Yeah.
He said this was a baseball trade, and to get good players, you have to trade good players. And
Yep.
so the Rangers feel like they've upgraded their offense. The Mets feel like they've upgraded their defense. Um, we'll see how everything plays out, of course. But yeah, it's been something
Yeah,
these last 96 hours.
yeah, and one of the things we don't really forget about, but we don't spend a lot of time on typically, is how the trade plays from the other side. So I've consumed a bunch of New York stuff today, including a Frank Licata, who's got a radio show on the excuse me, on the Mets flagship, and he's saying this is a great trade for the Mets. He said, his words. He said, Nimmo had become a liability defensively in left field. And I know we're trading offense for defense, but we have now got this great defensive player. We got plenty of offense. Even if he's not great offensively, we needed this guy defense. So he's out there selling. That said, most everybody else in New York is saying, whoa, what did we do? And that's an interesting perspective, right? If you just look at age. I think, though, most of the national guys would say, historically, over time, in his career, Marcus Semien's been a better baseball player than Brandon Nimmo.
I think he's had better individual seasons. But I think, if you kind of check out the landscape here the last few years, Nimmo's been, let's say a top 10 outfielder in the National League. I talked about this a little bit yesterday. If there are any concerns about him, it's the walk rate's gone down maybe a little bit in this last year, and he hits too many ground balls. Okay, I get it. The defense, he's not going to win a Gold Glove, but the stats kind of look at the stats and where he is in a lot of the defensive metrics, and he's above average.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the eye test says something different. I don't know, but this guy in the last 4 seasons has 112 home runs. That'll play.
Yeah.
That'll play.
Yeah.
That's just under 30 per.
Yep.
He's going to strike out, but hey, so does everybody these days.
Yeah.
But I just think that getting on base and putting the ball in play, and I know we're kind of getting. I don't know if we've been oversold on this or not, but that's kind of the way they're trending, and it's kind of what they've said when we parse apart their quotes, and even when people tell us this directly, it's that's the way they're going, folks. And that doesn't mean they're not going to hit home runs, because again, Nimmo can hit the ball out, but they are reacting to their ballpark. They do understand that the lineup as constructed last 2 seasons didn't have enough you didn't have enough on base. Certainly not this season. And there was just too many highs and lows, and they were mostly lows, because again, there were times where all 9 guys in the lineup were struggling, and you're like, how's this team going to get a hit?
Right.
And then you saw them getting shut out by guys who had 5.5 ERAs.
Exactly.
It was just bad offense all around. And even those major leaguers, those back of the rotation guys, could figure out the Texas Rangers, and that's just not what the Rangers are.
No, and that's not what they want to be. That's for sure. Did they commit to where in the outfield Nimmo might play? And obviously, you've got Wyatt Langford, Evan Carter when he's healthy. Osuna's out there. Adolis Garcia gone, obviously, after the non-tender. Where do we think Nimmo spends his time in the outfield?
It's looking more like right field, but I don't know that he'll play there every day. He said it hasn't been decided yet. I just need reps out there. I'll be fine. Played there before, but he also said, whatever's best for the group. If maybe Wyatt ends up in right field some, and there might be matchups, excuse me, on certain days where, especially if Evan Carter's healthy and playing a lefty, and the Rangers aren't sold on that yet, you're going to have a different alignment, whether it be Nimmo in center or Wyatt in center. So there's some things still to get figured out, but those are going to be spring training type decisions.
Sure, absolutely. All right, so the Rangers have acquired this man, so let's get to know him. Jeff spent some time doing that earlier. We've all heard and seen what we've seen. Let's talk about Brandon Nimmo, the man, and the player next. It's the DLLS Rangers podcast.
Hey guys, I'm just going to tell you right now, I'm super excited about our new sponsor, Wild Fork Foods. If you haven't heard of them, and you're a meat eater, and by God, I'm assuming most of you are, you need to Google Wild Fork Foods, find a store close to you, and get there as soon as you can. Beef prices are climbing. It's been a story for months. Not at not at Wild Fork Foods. They have a weekly sales call every week where they establish their foods and beat everybody's prices. That includes Costco. That includes HEB. They have over 250 different cuts of beef, poultry, seafood, pork, and for all of you kangaroo eaters out there, you can get kangaroo. All right. I was floored by the selection. I got to get my wife there because she's the cook, and I think she'll put us in debt. She'll put us into bankruptcy.
Yeah.
Just one trip of that store. So what makes it unique besides the pricing? They blast freeze everything. It maintains its freshness. It's not frozen solid like a brick like you get at the other places. It takes like 30 minutes to thaw once you have it. It's ridiculous, and it's so much more fresh. John and I have had a chance to sample it. We took some home from our visit to Wild Fork, and it's amazing. So right now, their organic grass-fed ground beef, 85% fat to lean content is $5.60 a pound when you buy two. It's about the best I've seen out there. You've got to try them out at one of their 9 area DFW locations. Learn more at wildforkfoods.com.
Yeah, we did some of the cooking in the Wild Fork this weekend too, and it was fantastic. I'm traveling, as you know, what I use when I travel is my Mando. It's nothing like not having to put a liquid into your travel bag. So I've got the wipes, the deodorant wipes again from Mando. They smell great, and they're such a great travel companion.
And meat sweats, John. You're going to get meat sweats.
Well, you will.
Fork.
I was using the Mando on my forehead after that lovely chimichurri a skirt steak, outside skirt steak we had. So yeah, Mando is perfect for all of that. And I encourage you to go to mando.com, use the code DLLS, and you get $5 off your first starter pack. Once you have that, you'll know what you like best and what you need to go buy more of. We know this. You need more Mando, and you need more Wild Fork. That's the truth. The Rangers needed more offense. They knew that. They have needed more offense for 2 years in a row. And so they made a trade last night in an attempt to get it. And clearly, if you just look at the numbers over the last couple of years, they have gotten better offensively. Brandon Nimmo, just last year, his OPS was 100 points higher than Marcus Semien's was. So, there's an offensive upgrade there for the Rangers. There's an age upgrade, 35 to 32. There's not really a huge financial upgrade. It's more of a wash, but there's a savings, especially in the first 2 years, and especially when you consider the $5 million that's coming the Rangers' way from the Mets in order to complete the trade. So there is some savings there in the first few years, especially of this deal. So that's what they did, and who they got was a guy who, by all accounts, Jeff, is an unbelievably good guy. Brandon Nimmo is that guy who, when he walks, he sprints to first base, right? He's that guy who's just so fired up and brings so much energy to the game at all times. I mean, again, a walk isn't that exciting. It is for Brandon Nimmo. He sprints to first base, right? He became a big-time leader in that Mets clubhouse. And that's a clubhouse full of veterans and full of high money guys. And he became kind of the heart and soul of that team. And that's one of the things Mets fans are lamenting about him being gone. And so, Jeff, when we think about the team that the Rangers had last year and the year before, and in some ways, even in 2023, they not only upgraded age and offense, they may have upgraded in a natural leadership qualities, the likes of which they haven't had, maybe since Michael Young?
I'll say this. And this guy, our Zoom call with him, um, my immediate thought was, this is another Travis Jankowski.
Oh, wow.
Not as a player,
Yeah.
as a guy. Could not have been a nicer guy. And like he apologized for being late because he had some audio difficulties, and he was like, "Oh man, I'm looking forward to getting to build some relationships with you guys." I was like, "Come on, man!" But like, the very first question was, kind of take us through the last 72 hours, and he did. I mean, boy, did he do that! Very detailed. Got a call Thursday night about the trade from David Stearns, the Mets GM. Said he spoke to Stearns for a while, and basically he said, "Am I the only thing hanging this up?" And he was told, "Yeah, we just need your approval on it." So, he was going to be traded. Um, I think the Mets would have been happy keeping him, but they found a deal that they thought helped them make them better. The next day was his daughter's first birthday, so he didn't do any baseball business until she got to bed that night. And then he said he was on the phone basically from Friday night. Woke up, got back on the phone, spent all day Saturday on the phone, and then decided Sunday afternoon, which you know this is when everything kind of started
Yeah.
to break with Jeff Passan's report. He spoke to Chris Young for 90 minutes. Um, he spoke to Jacob DeGrom extensively, their former Mets teammates. But he spoke to a lot of people and got the lay of the land. And and the thing that I remember, or I took away from the call, is that Nimmo said, "I got the sense, I am convinced that the Texas Rangers are not rebuilding. All I want to do is win the World Series, and I didn't want to come into a rebuild. It's a retooling, and he believes that the Rangers are going to contend every year for the next 5 years, the duration of his contract. So that, and he said, if I didn't think that, I wouldn't have waived my, no trade provision. I would have nixed the trade. So, um, whether it's good sales work by the Rangers, being honest and laying out the game plan. He's really impressed with the pitching and the defense. He didn't realize that the Rangers had been so good in those two categories last year, like best in the league good. And that's what really excites him, because the Mets have been good.
Sure.
They've been in the playoff hunt. They collapsed this year. They made it to the championship series in 24. But they haven't gone to the World Series despite all their spending. And he said it. He he kind of said, I had a chance to play out the rest of my career, and finish, as a Met only, kind of like David Wright did. And he said, but I would rather win a World Series.
Yeah.
So, I hope that puts a lot of pressure on the front office and ownership, to pony up. But just the timing of it all is pretty, I don't know, funny, funny. But they had just built a house in Port St. Lucie, Florida, which is where the Mets have spring training.
Mm-hmm.
And he said the house was built with entertaining people in mind. And like spring training, it was going to be a party at the Nimmo's house, it sounded like, every night. So he's going to have to build one of those in Arizona, I guess. But um, he's ready now. He said he sounded excited, and uh, to to tackle this new challenge with Skip Schumacher. He talked about the Marlins teams that Skip managed and how they were just pesky, and how the Mets did not like playing them, and that they tried to beat you any way imaginable.
Yep.
And that philosophy is also something Brandon really likes.
Yeah. No, that's huge. And, again, when you talk about that sales pitch, for lack of a better word, that CY and Ross and whoever else might have talked to him from the Rangers may have used, and, we know this. CY would bristle at sales pitch, because we asked it 100 times when Bruce Bochy came on board. And certainly then I feel like it was a much tougher sell, because the Rangers hadn't won. They'd been really bad for the last 4 or 5 years prior to that. And yet, what Chris Young envisioned, and that's what he'd say, it's not a sales pitch. We envisioned this happening. This is what's going to happen. And then it did. So I think there is some, credibility in that pitch, lack of a better word, that like it in Chris's mind, CY's mind, it isn't a pitch. This is what he wants this to be. He still wants 2023 not to be an aberration, but now I guess it would be 24 and 25 are the aberrations, and get back into being what his vision of the Texas Rangers will be. And this, here it is, a step for him in that direction, and a great ability, obviously, to convince someone to see the way he sees things. It worked with Bruce Bochy, and obviously, he had full trade clause, trade protection, so it worked with Brandon Nimmo.
Yeah, and gosh, you kind of look at this team, and all right, where do you start? Well, I mean, let's start with the pitching staff.
Right.
It's DeGrom, Evaldi, and now you feel really, really good about Jack Leiter. So there are three decent. I mean, not decent. Those are three pretty good starters.
Yeah.
And then you can if you just look internally, Cody Bradford's going to be healthy in May. You have Jake Latz. You have some of your best prospects are upper level starting pitchers. There's still Kumar Rocker, who has graduated from the prospect world, but he's hardly an established major leaguer. So there's arms. There are arms here. They need to add arms, no question about it. The bullpen has to be rebuilt. And last year the Rangers built a bullpen on like $10 million. That was Chris Young's joke, because with the money that you're saving on Nimmo to Semien and then the $5 million, that's $10.5 million. And
yeah,
he's like, well, shoot, we can use that $10 million if we do it like we did last year. We're going to get 8 relievers, and it's not far from the truth,
No.
So, but they've acknowledged they still have work to do, and whatever work it is that they told Nimmo lies ahead, he feels pretty good about. And he did talk about Wyatt Langford and Evan Carter and how they're going to be talented. They're talented young players. He wants to mentor them, kind of like he was mentored along the way. He mentioned guys like Jay Bruce and Curtis Granderson and David Wright, who are all veterans. Wright, of course, we just mentioned was Mets all the way, but Bruce played for the Reds, and Granderson played for a lot of teams, but a great guy. And somebody who wants to help. They wanted to help nurture young guys. It's what all veterans feel an obligation to do, and that's where Nimmo comes in. He wants to be that guy, in addition to, as he said, pretty good player. And so that's another aspect of it. This guy gets it. That's what I can tell. He really, really gets it. He understands his role is to be a good player, but to be more than that, to be a great teammate, especially with these young guys. So he's going to do his part. He thinks Chris Young's going to do his part, and just have to wait and see how it comes out in the wash.
Yeah, he signed his deal with the Mets back in 2022, and he was like, I'm so happy because it had the no trade protection. I'm so happy that I get to put this uniform on again, and now I'll never have to take it off. And by choice now, he's going to wear a different uniform. And again, as Jeff said, the reason he's planning on doing that is because he has been convinced that the Rangers have a really good chance of winning the World Series, which is what he wants to do. But what else do they need to do in order to accomplish that goal? It's a really good question you ask, so let's answer it next on the DLLS Rangers podcast.
Well, I tell you what, John, as we talk about all the things that DLS has to offer our viewers, Supporters Club is right close to the top of the list. And you guys can join it. It's not expensive. It's easy to do. And what you get is more behind the scenes stuff. A lot of our stories, most of our stories are behind the paywall, and you have to be a diehard to access them. Most of our videos, on the other hand, are not behind the paywall on our YouTube channel, But the ones that are, that's what you get when you're a member of the Supporters Club. Behind the scenes stuff, insights from the likes of the seasoned reporters that we've assembled on our staff, and just some fun stuff. John and I have had fun with the ones that we've done, and I hope you've liked them. Don't forget the emojis. I know all of you guys are proud of your emojis. So go to the homepage on our YouTube homepage and hit the join button, and it'll take care of the rest.
Yeah, and I wish we'd have had a camera rolling on me when I walked into the Starbucks in Romulus and said, "Hey, welcome to the DLLS Rangers podcast. We've got breaking news." And man, everybody around the room is going, "What the?" They're sitting there quietly on their computers. That might have been worth a little behind the scenes look there. Tell you what else is worth a look is our newsletter, which today is absolutely teeming with news. I mentioned the Cowboys' great win. I mean, really one of the best wins they've had in a long time over the Eagles last night. And how about the Wings? They get the first overall pick for the second year in a row. That's unbelievable. How good is that team going to be? And of course, all of our Rangers news, it's there. So Stars and Mavs are also included in Ali's great work in our newsletter. It's free. Scroll down to the bottom of our All DLLS page and click on that. And there's a box there. And then you enter your email and boom, get that newsletter every day for free in your inbox. All right. So now we kind of look at what is next for the Rangers as they do continue to remake it, right? It's not a rebuild, it's a remake. There's obviously a vision, which I love, and I really do feel like Chris Young always has a pretty good vision. And the amazing thing here, Jeff, is that this vision is able to take shape, even though there is a mandate to trim the budget, right? So, like, that's a double challenge. And CY told me at the GM meetings, he's like, I'm a competitor, that just says I got to do better at my job. And so he's, found a different now in a creative way to quote unquote, especially in the short term, get a little money back to free the budget a little bit and then give himself a little bit more freedom to do what he wants to do with acquiring the talent that he believes this team needs to get back to that 2023 level.
Yeah, and as we were trying to parse things together late in the season about how much money the Rangers would have, we settled somewhere around 50 to 60 million. I'd say it's probably still around that number available to them. Now, I don't think it's all available to them. They're not going to be spending at the same levels the last 2 years. Chris Young said that today. And when asked about the payroll, he also said, we're going to have enough. Didn't specify it. They know the number now, though.
Okay.
And he said, we're going to have enough. It's not going to be what it was, but we're going to have enough. Now, that leaves a lot of gray area, but he did also put in the caveat of whenever we've approached ownership, if it's something that's going to help us win, they've always come through. So all right, so maybe I don't even want to throw a dart at it, but it doesn't sound like they're going to be, A's territory.
Right.
They're not going to be Dodgers territory.
Right.
And they're not even going to be in their territory from last year. So, maybe let's just say 200 to 210 million. All right. Let's go ahead and just start there and so now they have 5 million less than they did just the other day, but they still have some big contracts. 40, 25, 31, 20 and a half, and 18 and a half. I don't know if you could do the math that fast, John, but
no,
it's more than 100 million.
Okay.
So let's say they have about 70 million to work with. What are they going to do with this 70 million? I don't know. I think you got to get a catcher.
Yes, I was just going to say, that's where I start. I start with a catcher, and I go from there. And that may determine how much money, like at what level I can begin shopping for a starting pitcher, right? Because we know that's coming, and we feel like a second baseman is coming. Now, that is something I think there are a couple of internal options, and so that's, to me, it's more possible to fill that spot at second base, even on a short-term basis, right, a year-long basis, than it is a catcher. There's no way to fill that. And I know CY, he feels the same way about starting pitcher. Now, there's people here, there's arms here, but he wants a proven pitcher. So I believe that what they're headed towards right here is catcher first, starting pitcher second, and then, you know, if what's left, and can they then do what we'd love to see happen, and who knows, maybe it'll all be thrown out because Skip says first thing I want is Luis Ariz, right? And then they do that and they work backwards from there. But we think that too is a possibility. I just don't know. You got to tell me how much the starting pitcher and the catcher are going to cost.
Yeah, and yeah, where are you going to get the catcher? That's the
bigger question.
We've seen the free agent market, and it's not pretty. So then you kind of you want to look at, all right, what catchers are potentially available? How much would they cost? And so I don't know. It's a tough one. You know, Real Muto is the big one, and Phillies are going to probably do what they can to re-sign him. And okay, that's cool, man. I'm fine with that. But yeah, so you hope you can do it for maybe the same ballpark as Higashioka.
Sure.
Maybe it's a price that comes up here in the next couple years. Okay, well that's fine. But but maybe a young guy. You know, I saw somebody in the chat put down William Contreras from the Brewers, and we've talked about Victor Caratini, who is maybe the best of the free agents. Adley Rutschman.
Yeah.
We think that's going to cost them too much.
Yeah.
You know, Ryan Jeffers is a guy I still think with the Twins as a possibility in a trade. So there are guys out there that aren't going to kill you, right? And the other one who intrigues me a little bit is Sean Murphy with the Braves.
Yep.
Coming off of injury, you know, if he's healthy, he's a really productive guy. But he makes seven figures. He's in the 12. I think it's 12 million last year, and I think it's more than that in the next few years. So I don't know if that's too much. So, but let's say they can fill those two spots: serviceable starting pitcher, regular catcher for 30 million. That gives you a little more room to maybe consider an Ariz.
Mm-hmm.
You need a right-handed hitting outfielder, a guy like, let's say, Austin Hayes, who's a nice little player. He crushed left-handers last year. He can play around the outfield, has some pop. Okay, let's go ahead and knock that one out for 6 million, 1 year, $6 million deal. Okay, that gives you some money to really, you know, either get another starter or do something with the bullpen that's splashy. But I just don't think they will, based on the
No, I
success
don't
they
either.
had last year.
Yeah.
In finding these arms that were undervalued, and they overachieved. I mean, let's be honest. And I don't know if they can get any of those guys back. They will let one of them go, Brandon Webb or Jacob Webb. I'm sorry, which didn't make a lot of sense to us. It didn't make a lot of sense to a lot of people. So maybe they're going to try to do one of those deals where you non-tender the guy, but bring him back for less.
Yeah, and Phil Maton signed this week away too. So.
Yeah, signed a 2-year deal.
Yeah,
and I don't know, you know, I don't know if the Rangers are going to be interested in 2-year deals.
right.
But he would have been a nice guy to have back. He knows how to pitch, doesn't overpower anybody, but he has really good ability to change speeds. Armstrong's still the one that
Yeah.
I would love to see come back. You know, can he replicate what he did last year? Probably not, at least against right-handers. But you know, still a guy who wants to be here, loved his time here, took advantage of it. That'd be a good one to have back. And then after that, it's like, geez, you know, who there are a lot of $1 to $2 million relievers out there. You'd think.
Sure. I'd love to have Milner back too.
Yeah, Milner
again,
and Coulomb would both.
Yeah, it's another good question. Can Milner do? Because he hadn't before. I mean, he had as good a year as he's ever had this year with the Rangers. But gosh, I loved, and maybe it was because he was comfortable and he was home. He's from here. But man, I loved what Hobie Milner did, from the left side down under there. So
Yeah. Well, and like Danny Coulomb last year signed with the Twins for 1 year, $3 million deal. He had a great year, so maybe his price goes up a little bit. But
yeah,
I don't know. Again, he lives locally too.
yep,
Maybe there's something there as far as sacrificing
sure,
uh, the bottom line to
yeah,
be at home and have more family time.
yeah,
I don't know.
the hometown discount, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
but
So
I do think the Rangers have if Chris Young says enough, there's enough. If the
yeah,
Brewers can do it, why can't the Rangers do it? And the Rangers have basically, I don't know if you consider Brandon Nimmo a superstar or not, but I would
no,
consider Seager, DeGrom, and Evaldi superstars.
yep,
I mean, you got some superstars on this team,
sure,
but you do still need guys like Jake Berger and Josh Young to do something. It
yep,
can't just all be done in free agency. There has to be, again, internal improvements. I think Berger, with the injuries that he dealt with last year, joining a new team, the heart surgery that his daughter had to go through there in spring training, and she was in the hospital for a while, and maybe that was on his mind. I don't know, but I have some faith in him, and again, the Skip Schumacher thing also gives me
yep,
faith
me too, me
that
too.
better things are ahead for Jake Berger.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I believe that sometimes just a different voice, right? I mean, essentially, Josh Young in this case, who I'm talking about, will be receiving a very similar message to the message he was receiving at the end of last year, and after he got sent down and called back up. The message that he'll be receiving this year will be very similar to what he was hearing then, but sometimes just a different voice and a different a way of delivering that message is all a guy needs. And we can hope that Josh Young, becomes everything that he showed flashes of becoming, and everything that the Rangers believed he could be when they took him with the 4th overall pick.
Yeah, that's it's been a frustrating few years here for him because he's been hurt all the time. Massive injuries. This year, his injuries were at least normal. It didn't cost
Right.
him half the year. He didn't have to have any kind of surgery that I'm aware of. Um, and yeah, a new voice might be the trick. And I believe in that as well. Seems like he really tried to glom on to what Brett Boone was preaching.
Yes.
I think Brett Boone really targeted Josh.
Yep.
You just look at his numbers throughout his career, starting in college and in the minors. He's not a 240 hitter, right?
No.
I mean, this is a
No.
guy that should, just based on his history, should be hitting better,
Yep.
and he hasn't been. Chases way too much. Um, he will work a deep count, but then get called out on strikes, and um, it just has to be better. And
Yep.
I think Josh knows that. The demotion, which obviously he didn't like. I don't think anybody wants to be demoted, but I think it might have set off an alarm. Be like, oh, geez, I need to get my stuff in gear. And there were times where you saw it, in the second half. Like, all right, this is good, Josh Young. And then there are times where like, oh, this is Josh Young. So, you know, he's got to be better. And and I'm assuming he's on the team. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, I am
and,
too.
and it's a big year for him.
Yeah.
This is his first year as an ARB eligible player, and if he has another pedestrian season, there may not be a second one.
Right. Yeah. And he's seen how that works with Jonah
Right.
Heim and Adolis Garcia now, that the Rangers aren't afraid to do that. And that is the message that's being delivered right now by Chris Young about the trade of a beloved Marcus Semien, and by David Stearns about the trade of a beloved Brandon Nimmo. Both are saying sometimes you have to put emotion aside and just do what you have to do to make your team better. Both believe they did. It's good. It's rare. It's refreshing. And it's just a 1-for-1, Jeff. We don't even have to do math to figure out how all this works and who's going where. It's just one guy for one guy. Trade, easy to judge, I suppose.
Yeah, but you just, it seems to me that you just don't see this very often. Two
I agree.
high caliber guys
No, almost never.
that with no prospects attached. Yeah, there's a little money attached, but it's basically player for player. And
Yeah.
hey, kind of, if I was not covering the Rangers or the Mets, I'd be like, hey, this is kind of a fun deal.
Yeah. Let's see what happens. Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty cool. So more to talk about. We've got our cleanup segment coming next. We'll chat with you guys and wrap it up next. It's the DLLS Rangers podcast. And it is time to become a diehard. This is the time. I think I saw on the newsletter, in fact, that there's already a $36 deal out there. So grab
Oh
it,
my.
man. Yeah, grab it. Because if you don't, you're going to regret it. If you grab it right now, you can be a part of the exclusive sale that's happening for only our diehard members. It's the Black Friday sale. Jeff's going to talk more about that in just 1 second. But, Jeff and I wear the merch every day anyway, but everybody on the shows is wearing all the merch this week to remind you how cool it is and how easy it is to get and how cheap it'll be this weekend. And if you're a diehard, you can start getting those discounted prices today. You don't have to wait. It's like beat the rush, okay? And you also get this great content. Yeah, there's the Black Friday sale. Early access for diehards only. So it seems like a no-brainer. Just become a diehard. And now you get this early access up to 90% off on some of the items. And look at all that great variety of shirts that are available there. So become a diehard today. Get all the access that we put in there behind the paywall, and you still get a free shirt, and you might get a bunch of free shirts or darn near free when they're 90% off, Jeff.
Yeah, I have plans to take advantage of this early access. I was looking at my sweatshirt collection.
Yeah.
And I have like only dark colored sweatshirts. I need a gray one. There's a gray DLS sweatshirt out there
Is there
that
really?
is on
Okay.
sale. Yeah,
Okay.
that I'm gonna go get. It will be in my closet soon. And but it isn't just our t-shirts that you get when you become a a diehard. You get to choose one t-shirt. Um, it's t-shirts, it's sweatshirts, it's this hat, a number that I think is going to be growing soon. You can go get a pint glass, a coffee cup, a flag. It's just good stuff. John and I wouldn't wear it if it sucked. Okay,
Nope.
these are really really nice shirts. I even worked out in one the other day and felt just fine with it. So, but the important thing this over the weekend when I was at the baseball fields and it was chilly in the morning, I had on my DLS sweatshirts each day, and they kept me nice and warm and comfortable. So store.allcitynetwork.com. Take advantage of Black Friday early access if you're a diehard.
Yeah, and do me a favor. I took my first swim through. I've got 2 swims coming through social media content creation. The skipper Ben and Kat did a great job, sort of inserting me into a famous meme. So find that out there on the Twitter machine and like it, won't you? I could win $100, and that's at the store actually. So watch for those. There's another one coming, and then we get to the cleanup segment, Jeff. And cleaning things up starts with, I'll be darned, the Rockies have a manager.
Oh,
And it's the guy they had all along. They took the interim tag off Warren Schaefer.
well, good for Warren. That's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, glad for Warren.
That's interesting. Maybe they tried and were rejected. I don't know.
Sure.
I
Sure.
haven't read much about it, but um, it's a young team. Uh, old Warren, he's a younger fella, probably relates pretty well to these players. And I'm sure that if you ask the players, if I don't know if they would go that far to do that, I'm sure he received great reviews from these
Sure.
kids. tumultuous season, at one point a historically terrible season, and he was there for him. So
Yeah.
good for him.
Yeah, and he helped help them avoid surpassing the previous season's record for futility set by the White Sox. So, right, you appreciate as a player, you don't want to be a part of that.
No, no, absolutely not. Um, you got you. God no, you don't want to be branded with that. But um, so good for them for figuring it out, or whatever it was that they did. Figure it out
Yeah,
just enough,
yeah,
just enough.
yeah.
But they've made some interesting non-tender moves. I thought. Um, Getting rid of, I think he pronounces it Toglia, Toglia, the big first baseman who is kind of a Joey Gallo. It's all or nothing. He is the guy who broke John Gray's arm in spring training.
Oh,
So
wow.
he's a free agent now. Yeah,
Okay, bastard. Yeah, too bad. Well, he's not coming here. Um, yeah, and we may need to dive into that a little bit more tomorrow. Some of the non-tendered guys that are out there. There was a lot
yeah,
to talk about today, but there were some eyebrow raisers, and probably none bigger than Adolis Garcia and Jonah Heim. Certainly, and based on the reactions that we saw from that, but there is. There's a lot, and it was a pretty amazing day, and it was an amazing day for the Rangers as well. So other things on the list, though, it appears, Jeff, that, and I'm going to feel bad for Wash on this front, but it appears that the Angels are again, and Artie Moreno does this, right? He's very mercurial, and he'll spend crazy, and maybe because he now knows he's finally in the final year of the Rendon contract, he'll start to spend again. But they seem to be in on a lot of people, and including today, I'm seeing Walker Buehler. So again, that was their weakness last year, was pitching. It's something that definitely needs to be addressed. Wash was working on the young position players they have, and they've taken huge steps under him. But there's still a lot of improvement to do there, and especially on the pitching front.
yeah. It's yeah, a shame on the Wash front. He wasn't handed much, and and again before his issue with his ticker, the Angels weren't a bad team. All right, you look at the record before the surgery and before the bypass and after the bypass, and yeah, Ron Washington made a difference with that team. I was very surprised. I was a little surprised that he was let go, because he insisted he's going to be healthy and ready to go for spring training. I hope that somewhere, either with the Rangers preferably, but the A's or the Braves, that there's a spot somewhere for Ron Washington to continue impacting young major league players or minor leaguers.
Yeah, he was always he is. It always was, and probably it will be until the day he dies. Just a great teacher, and
Yeah,
and he has no problem at 71 or 72, whatever he is now, no problem relating to the kids. There may be a little bit of pushback initially, as we saw with some of the youngsters in Anaheim, but Wash stays with his tough love, and then eventually they all love him, and that's who Wash is. So yeah, we'll be rooting for him. There's just no doubt about that. And it will be an interesting, if they do start to spend a little bit more money, and they've obviously they've decided on their manager, and they've gotten everything and they've gotten really good assistant coaches, including Mike Maddox, right? That makes the American League West even that much better, potentially.
yeah. Um, uh, yeah, I still think they have some growing pains to overcome, and they just traded a 30 home run hitter
Yeah.
for a young pitcher who has a pretty extensive injury history. Um, so you'll have to wait and see how that one plays out. But the young kid Neto,
Yeah.
he, he had a heck of a year. A really good year. And so I hope that, um, yeah, it's always good when teams are better. It demands a higher, um, concentration level. You can't take anybody lightly, things like that. So I'm all for it. The better the competition, the better in theory the Rangers would be.
Sure, iron sharpens iron and all that stuff, and all you have to do is look at the American League East, which has over the years had several really good teams: Red Sox, Yankees, this year Blue Jays, lately Orioles, often Rays. I mean, there's a lot of really good competition in that American League East, so you've got to be darn good to win it, and it feels like that's a little bit like where the American League West is headed. If Seattle's going to stay serious. It seems like Houston, is obviously. I mean, their recent past speaks for itself, and the Rangers are serious about this thing too. So that's going to be interesting to see the World Baseball Classic coming up this year in a surprise that's not a surprise at all. One of the least surprising things we've ever heard is that Salvador Perez, Jeff, will be the captain of Team Venezuela.
Yeah, that's a real shocker.
Right. I
I
don't know. I'm not sure who else is here from Venezuela these days, but I know this. It wouldn't matter, right? He's just such a leader. He's such a great ambassador for the game, and obviously, he's a great captain for their World Baseball Classic team.
Yeah, I guess Miggy maybe would have been a possibility of captain, but he's retired, so
Yeah,
um,
yeah,
don't have to worry about him.
yeah,
Um, yeah, I hope that the Venezuela team with hopefully Martin Perez is able to pitch for him.
yeah,
Um, you know, Elvis Andrews played for him. Rougned Odor, as I recall, played for him over the years. So hopefully they're a formidable foe. They always seem to be. Um, that turn. I really like that tournament. I think
yeah,
it's great. Kind of breaks down the monotony of spring training. Although there is, I think the injury factor. It's real, and
yeah.
I hope that if any Rangers go, that they can avoid the injury bug from having to ramp up early or not resting as much. Whatever it is, maybe it's a combination of the two, but hopefully don't have to worry about that with the
No, and
Rangers.
it is tough for pitchers, right? I mean, it's a little bit more difficult for pitchers to get themselves ready that quickly, and then hopefully that does help them when they get into the regular season. So yeah, we'll see about that. But obviously, the big news today is that it was yesterday's news, but we're still digesting it today, and had a chance to talk to the principals today. And off the air, Jeff said to me that Brandon Nimmo is the nicest human being he's ever met. So that's cool. I look forward to having a guy like
It's
that.
ridiculous.
I really look forward to having a guy like that to talk to on a regular basis throughout spring training, and then of course during the season. And I really do think that there will be a positive effect from a guy like that on the clubhouse that was
Sure.
somewhat lacking in that last year until the young guys came up and sort of gave it a burst of energy.
Yeah, that's a tricky one that will have to be uh, will take time to, and you got to be around the players to get the feeling anyway. But um, you know, is there something to be gained by subtracting Nimmo from Marcus? Marcus was never unfriendly to anybody,
Oh, no,
but
no, no, no,
but
no.
this guy seems to be going out of his way. And again, we don't know what leadership qualities Marcus had in the clubhouse. We're only there 45 minutes a day, and
Right,
um, we saw the lead by example part, no question about it. So
right.
I'm sure it's a story that'll be talked about and written about. Skip Schumacher's talked about it a lot already. It's something Chris Young believes in wholeheartedly. There's no doubt that Brandon Nimmo is a fit, though. Holy cow, what a nice guy!
Yeah, Yeah, that's great. And really, you're right. I mean, how he is or how Marcus was with the media is immaterial. What we need is that galvanizing force in the clubhouse. So yeah, we may do a segment about that tomorrow. Talk and dive a little bit more into that and what he has been and what he could be for a team that probably didn't have enough of that last year. But for now, we're out of time. Like I said, we're the only ones talking about this today, so we're glad. You're welcome, and we're glad you're here with us hanging out. Talking baseball, talking Rangers on the day after a blockbuster trade. We'll do it again tomorrow on another edition of the DLLS Rangers podcast.